Alright guys, so welcome back to the beautiful world of Unreal Engine 5, and in this course we're going to be making this whole apartment. So this is the living room. You can see it looks pretty realistic. Here we have the TV, and um, this is the dining table, and this is going to be the kitchen. Everything you can see looks pretty realistic, and the lighting is pretty good, and the textures and everything we're going to be doing. We're going to be making all this from scratch. We're going to be using Blender, the Blender Kit add-on, and the assets we're going to be importing from there as well. And if I go inside the bathroom, you're going to see this is the bathroom, and this again looks pretty realistic. And if I just get out of here, and if I just go inside this bedroom, you're going to see this is the bedroom, and this looks pretty good as well. All right, so let's just go out. And so what I'm going to do is so what we're going to be doing is that we're first going to be planning this out inside of Blender, and after that we're going to be coming inside of Unreal Engine 5, and then we're going to be adding the assets and everything, and working on the texturing, lighting, and finally we're going to be making an animation. Right, so let's begin with Blender. So I'm just going to open Blender real quick, and I'm just going to create a new project and just delete everything, and I'm just going to save it. Oops, I'm just going to press Control S, and I'm going to save it as apartment underscore ss. Right. So first of all, we need a map. We basically need a sort of an outline on which we're going to be basing our apartment. So you can just search for apartment map design, and you can find a lot of these maps, and you can just either come up with your own plan, or you can just copy any of these. So the one which I used was let me just open it. All right, so the one which I used was this one. So this is the living room, kitchen, dining room, and we have the bedroom, closet, and then bathroom. Now I did cut this part off because I mean, in this tutorial I'm just going to be making one bed or one bedroom, and I don't think we need another bedroom, so that's why I just cut this part out. And all right, so what I'm going to do now is that firstly we're going to be importing this reference inside of Blender. I am going to be attaching this reference in the project section of this class on Skillshare. So if you're watching this on Skillshare, then be sure to check check the project section out, and you can download this reference, and you can just follow along. However, I would highly recommend you to actually come up with your own layout, or you can just use another one if you want, because that's really going to test your creativity, and that's going to improve your overall creative instincts as well, as opposed to just copying someone else's work. Right, so I'm just going to be dragging this inside of Blender. Drag it right here, and you're going to see it's going to come it's going to be rotated. So we can just press Alt R, but I have I have that set up for something else. It's basically the NVIDIA controls. So I'm not gonna do that. Instead, I'm just gonna go here, and this rotation, I'm just gonna select all of them and press 0. So it's just gonna sort of reset the rotation, and we can also 0 this location out as well, so that it resets the location as well. Right. So now what I'm going to do is that firstly, let me just get the dimensions right, and let me just get the whole size of this room right. So you're going to see this actually comes with these dimensions. So this is 15 feet. I think it's feet. 15 feet by 16 feet, right? So I'm just going to be creating a brand new cube. And this cube, I'm just going to be placing it right here. And let me just press Alt Z on my keyboard to turn on the X-ray mode. You can alternatively, you can press this button right here. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to be scaling this up. I'm going to be setting basically the dimensions of this to be to match this living room. All right. So firstly, let me just set let me just set the side Y to 15 feet, 15 FT, and you're going to see it's pretty large. And apart from that, if I just go to the dimensions X, I'm just going to set that to 16 feet. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to be scaling this reference up according to our cube, because we want the scale to be right. Otherwise, if we import any furniture or anything like that, then it's going to come really big, and we're going to have to scale that down manually, and that's not something which we want. So I think that should be good. How about we rotate this? Never mind. So I think something like that should be good. Now it doesn't fit perfectly, which I don't understand why. Maybe the dimensions are, maybe the measurements are slightly off. However, I think this should be a good size. And just to get an idea, just to get a reference, we're going to be using Blender Kit add-on, by the way, for to import all the assets later on. So what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to be searching for bed in the Blender Kit add-on. If obviously you don't know how to use the Blender Kit add-on, or you haven't installed it, I'm going to be teaching that later on in this tutorial. However, just for now, just bear with me for now. And I'm just gonna go to the search filters and I'm gonna set it to free first. And let me just import just a random bed, for example, this one. So you're gonna see the scale of this bed. If I just move this cube down, you're gonna see that the scale of this bed is basically perfect. And obviously the bed is pretty large, and this is our living room, right? So this apartment is supposed to be small, right? So I think that's fine. I'm just going to delete that, and we're going to be coming back to this Blender Kit add-on later on, and we're going to be importing our assets from here as well. But for now, just don't worry about it. All right, so now we have the basic measurements done, and we have the scale of this reference set up. Now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to be starting to build the whole outline of this, basically the apartment. So actually, I'm not going to delete that cube. I'm just going to scale the cube down. Something like that. Let me just move it up so that it's visible. Scale it down like that. And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to start to basically create the walls. So let me just start from, say, here, this corner. I'm going to scale it down, something like that. Something like that should be good. Maybe. Yeah. And now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to press tab to go into edit mode. I'm going to press Alt Z to go into X-ray mode. Alternatively, you can press this as well. And I'm going to select these two vertices. Make sure you're in the vertex select mode. It's not vertice select mode, it's vertex select mode. And you can just extrude it out, and you can basically just trace this whole I'm going to press G and Y to move this ahead, and I'm going to press extrude to create this corner, and then I'm going to select these two vertices, and then I'm going to extrude them out like that. And you're basically just sort of tracing this whole scene, because I mean, you have to create the whole outline of this apartment. And so I'm just gonna move it right there. E for extrude, select. Actually, I'm just gonna make sure that the size is not that off, because obviously we want our walls to be uniform. Right there. And we're going to come back to this closet later on, but for now I'm just going to create the general outline of this house, this apartment. Something like that. Extrude it out. And I'm going to select these two, extrude them out again. And this time I'm just going to be taking it to the end. So the reason why I'm not making this is because obviously we want one bedroom in our apartment. And obviously this makes it look, this makes it very rectangular, which just simplifies our whole scene, and it makes it look much better. Right, so yeah, so we basically had a door here, but since we're not making this bedroom, I'm just not going to have that door. Yeah, so I'm just going to be putting it right here. And we can actually, I think we can just make them extrude or something like that. So for here, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to be, alright, so I'm just going to select this, and I'm going to be just placing it inside of this, something like that. Right, so we have the general outline of our map done, and now let's just add what do you call them? Let's just start adding these inner lines. Okay, so for that, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go to edit mode again, and I'm just going to select these two. Make sure you are in the X-ray select mode, otherwise obviously it's only going to select the top vertices. So if I just select these two, you're going to see that the bottom two are not going to be selected, which is not something we want. So just make sure you are in the X-ray mode. So just extrude this like that. Make sure to stop right there and pull it out a little bit and bring it out like that. And I'm going to select these two, and I'm going to pull them out as well. Right, so again, select these two, bring them out like that. And all this is a little, it is a little repetitive. However, I mean, it's something you have to do in order to get a really good interior. But you can just put on some good music, or you can put on a podcast or something like that. So now you're going to see that we don't actually have any vertices right here to extrude. So we're going to be creating vertices by adding loop cuts. So I'm going to press Ctrl R on my keyboard, and if I just drag over this, and if I just hover over this, you're going to see that we're going to have this yellow line. So I'm just going to create that. I'm just going to click that, and I'm going to create one right there. And you can press double G. You can press G twice on your keyboard to actually move this vertex. And I'm going to be placing it right there. Control R again. Wait, let me just zoom out. Control R again. And I'm going to be creating another one right there. something like that. Select all them and extrude like that. And again with this as well, all Control R right there, and Control R again right there. Select both of these and extrude them out. And extrude them out again and again. And I'm going to select this one, extrude it out. This part is actually pretty satisfying, to be honest, because you're just tracing and it's not that hard. It's just fun, to be honest. And I'm going to be adding a loop right there and right there. And so let me just extrude it out like that. All right, so I think we have covered the whole scene, the whole apartment. And now if I just get out, you're going to see that the thickness, the height of this is very less. So I'm just going to go to the side view, and we can actually just scale it up. S and Z, just scale it up in the Z axis. Obviously it's going to take some effort. And I think that looks pretty good, right? So one thing which we're going to be doing is that firstly, we're going to be importing a human reference so that we can actually scale things properly. But before that, what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to go to item, and the dimensions of this in the Z-axis are basically 1.09, right? If I just go to the internet and if I search average bedroom dimensions, actually let me just search height. Average bedroom height is like 260 centimeters, right? So 260 centimeters. I'm just gonna write that right here, 260 cm. Make sure to write cm, otherwise it's gonna think you mean 260 meters, which is gonna be absolutely insane. So yeah, 2.6 meters that is. And if I just move it up, something like that. Now I am leaving some space in the ground because we're going to be adding the floor in Unreal Engine 5 later on. So I'm just going to be leaving some margin for that. Right, so this is going to be our room. This is going to be our, what do you call it? Our apartment. Yeah. And now let's start to actually add the items. All right, so before actually adding the furniture, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to be creating the windows, because the windows are really important. If you, if I just go to Unreal and if you look at this, the majority of lighting is done by the windows actually themselves. But it's basically lit by the sun. And there are some lights indoor as well, but they're not that important, and they're not that game changing as the outdoor lighting. Yeah, so what I'm going to do is that I'm going to be creating the windows now. So in this scene, I created 3 windows. One was right there, the second one was right here, and the third one was right here. And so the way we created that was by, firstly, I took a window mesh from BlenderKit, and then I created, basically I created sort of spaces for the window inside these, inside the actual mesh of our, and the basic structure of our apartment. And so let's do that for now. So first, let me introduce you to the add-on called BlenderKit, which we're going to be using for most of our models, most of our 3D models. And so if you don't have BlenderKit installed, you can just go to the internet, search for BlenderKit. It's a free add-on which you can just install by pressing this button right here, download BlenderKit, and it is showing you these the instructions right here. But I'm going to be showing them to you as well. Just press download, and I'm not going to do that because I already have it downloaded. So once it is downloaded, what you're going to do is simply go to Edit, Preferences, and inside this add-ons menu, you can press this install button right here, and then you can browse to wherever you had BlenderKit installed. So right here, you can see BlenderKit. Just press install add-on, and it's just going to come right here like this. And by default, it's not going to be checked, so just make sure that you check it. After that, it's going to become active in Blender. And so what we're going to be doing is that we're simply going to go. If I just go here, you're going to see this button right here, this button. If I just press it, you're going to see that it's going to open this menu right here, right? So I'm just going to press this BlenderKit right here, and you're going to see all these options. So you can just search for anything. I'm just going to search for window now, and some windows are going to come up. If they don't, then be sure to click this I button right here. And sometimes it does take some while. It does take a while, and just keep doing it until it just shows. Yeah, and by default, this free first is not going to be checked. So you can just go to search filters and free first if you're interested in only free assets. Otherwise, you can pay for them as well. So the one which I downloaded, the one which I got, the window, was I think this one right here, because it's very simple. It's a very simple window, and it's very sort of effective, and it's very easy to use as well. So yeah. So what I did was I basically just went to edit mode with this window, and I just went to the face select mode, and I just selected all these faces of the actual window, and I just deleted them. Now the reason why I did that because in Unreal Engine 5, if we added, let's say, a glass texture to this, it's going to be very transparent anyway, right? So why use the extra geometry? Why use the extra sort of just light reflections, right, here and there, which are going to be which are going to have an extra performance cost, which is something we don't want, especially because we're using ray tracing. So we have to save performance everywhere we can, right? So let's just create a window, for example. Yeah, let's just create one right here. Okay, so right here. So for that, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to select this structure, press tab to go into edit mode, and I'm going to be adding a loop cut right here. Something like that, right? And the reason for that is because now if I just go to the face select mode, and if I just select this face, and I can just inset this by pressing I. And so right now it's not insetting correctly, and that is because if I just undo it, that is because we don't have our scale applied. So just don't think about it too much. Just press Ctrl A and press all transformations. And that is something which you have to do in Unreal Engine 5 after you have scaled an object. In Blender, sorry, after you have scaled an object, you just have to make sure that the scale is uniform, and that is how we can fix that problem. Now you're going to see it's going to be insetting just fine. But one problem which you're going to be noticing is that if I inset this and if I just delete the face, it's not going to go anywhere. Well, technically it is deleted. However, on the other side, we still do have a face. So we're going to have to select both of them. Just press Shift on your keyboard and select both of them. And then you can just inset it like that. Something like that. And now if I just press delete faces, and you're going to see we're going to have this sort of a window. And so what I'm going to do, by the way, if for example your camera is not moving correctly and you want to focus on one object, just press Control on your keyboard and the middle mouse button. Actually, press Alt on your keyboard and the middle mouse button, and it's just going to focus on that, and you can pivot around that object very easily. Now, one problem which you're going to be noticing is that basically this the structure is empty from the inside, and we just want to fill it. We're going to create faces. So for that, I'm just going to select this edge select mode, select these two edges, press F to fill in, and just create a face. Select these two, press F to create a face, and select these two, F to create a face, and lastly these two, F to create a face. Now you're going to see we have this clean looking window. I think it is a little too big, so you can obviously just go ahead and sort of adjust the size if you want. So we can probably select these two faces, and we can press S and Y to scale them down in the y-axis. Now if I just pressed S, it would do the job. However, it would also basically scale it down in the x-axis as well, which is something we don't want. And that is why we're seeing these weird lines right here, right? We don't want that. So you can either just S, Y, and then SZ, something like that. Or however, you can simply press S and Shift X. So it's going to be scaling it down in all axes except for the x-axis. So you can do that as well. Something like that should be good. And then SY slightly like that. That should be a really good size. And now I'm just going to select this window, and I'm going to go to the top view, just place it right there, rotate it 90 degrees, minus 90 degrees, and scale it down. G, Shift Z to move it in all axes except for the Z axis. Again, right now my camera is moving very weird, so I'm just going to press Alt and the middle mouse button. So now you're going to see we can basically control the camera, control the viewport very easily and very precisely. So I'm just going to be placing it right there, maybe something like that. And now I'm just going to press SZ to scale it up in the Z axis, something like that, and then SY to scale it up in the Y axis to match the dimensions of this window. And that is exactly how you do this. Perfect. One thing which you can do is you can probably move this forward, something like that, so that it's actually popping out of of the wall, and that just gives it an extra dimension, which I think looks pretty good. But obviously, if you don't want to do that, then you can obviously not do that as well. This, it will be the perfect time to start saving your project, because I don't want you to lose any progress that you've made so far. So just go ahead and save your project. Now, if I just go back to Unreal Engine, you're going to see that we have created this window. Actually, not this window. We have created that window right here, but we still do have to create these two windows. Okay. So for that, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to be going to this side. Let's create a window right there. And so I'm just going to add a loop cut somewhere like that. I think that should be good. Press, select this face, shift, select the one on the back, and just press I to inset, and press S and X to scale it down like that in the x-axis. Press delete to delete the faces, and then you can go ahead and select the edges and press F to fill them in. And lastly, that one. Perfect. So now you can just copy this. To copy, you have to press Shift and D on your keyboard. Shift D. So once you do that, you're going to see it like that. And press RZ to rotate it. Minus 90 degrees. Oops. Minus 90 degrees in the Z-axis. And then you can just focus on that object. And then just bring it forward. Something like that. You can obviously do this inside of the top view as well. I think that's much easier. Something like that should be good. And then you can sort of place it at the bottom right edge, and then you can scale it up from there. That should be a good position. Maybe just move it back a little bit, something like that. And then you can just scale it up, SZ, oops, SZ, not GZ, SZ like that, and S and, oops, S and, actually never mind, I had to basically put it on this side, the bottom left side, because I rotated it, and so for this I had to place it on the bottom left side. SZ, SX and scale it up like that. Perfect. So we have another window right here, and I think we have to create another one right there as well, just right beside the TV. So again, just save your project and let's create this. Oops. Let's create this window as well. So I'm just going to create a loop cut right there. Select this face, select the one in the back. And this one is going to be pretty small. So something like that. However, S and Z, something like that. I think that should be good. Maybe just scale it up a little bit in all axes except for the x-axis. Just delete it. Faces, and let me just go to the edge select mode and let me just fill them in. Okay, and now again just duplicate that. I'm going to be duplicating this one because we don't need to rotate it. Shift D and place it right there. Then we can obviously scale it down. GZ, something like that. SC and SY. Perfect. So we have our windows ready. I think we did have windows inside in other rooms as well. So if I just go to, let's say, this bedroom, yeah, we had a window right there as well, and in the bathroom as well we had a window right there. So we're just going to be creating those now, and you can obviously skip this part if you think it's repetitive. However, I want to show you how to do everything. So I think the window was right there, right? And yeah, it's pretty simple to create these windows. Just put on some good music and or a good podcast, and then you can just get done with this real fast. S and Y. Fill it up in. Never mind. I think we're good. Yeah. So just delete that. Faces. Select these. F to fill it in. Select these. F to fill it in. Alt and middle mouse button to focus. And one last time. All right. So now I'm just gonna select this one. Shift D. Duplicate it right there. And I think we're good. think something like that is fine. I'm gonna move it in the y-axis slightly, maybe in the z-axis as well, something like that. SZ, that should be good, and SY, that should be good. Perfect, so that is done. And finally, coming to this bathroom window, let me just create a loop cut right there. And one right there. And I'm just going to be insetting this like that. And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to be scaling it down in the z-axis, in the z-axis, and then I'm going to be moving it up in the z-axis as well, because we want this window to be on the top left hand side. So just delete the faces, like these two F, these two F, and 2F, and finally these two F. Right, and the last window, scale it down quite a lot, move it like that, and I'm going to be scaling it up in the y-axis a little bit because it became too thin, and that's not something which I want. GX, GZ slightly, SZ, and finally S and X. Alright, perfect. So we're done with the windows, and now we can move on to the next step, which is going to be to add the furniture. Alright, so for the furniture, I'm going to be starting with the living room first. So I'm just going to be searching for a sofa, or you can search for a couch. Select free first, and I'm going to be using the same exact assets which I used before in this scene. But obviously you are more than welcome. In fact, you're encouraged to use other assets because that's going to test your creativity, and well, just copying something blindly is not going to make you a better artist, right? Yeah, so I'm just going to be adding this one right here. Let's just go to the top view and let's start arranging these. Right, so one thing which I'm noticing is that right now we have this modern bed, collection of modern bed for some reason, and inside it we have the sliding door, and inside that we had the white sofa, but I dragged it out. So I'm just going to be dragging this sliding doors out as well. And let me just close these. So this modern bed, I'm just going to delete this collection because I think we deleted that bed. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to be right clicking this white sofa, and I'm going to be pressing select object, and I'm just going to press R and rotate it like that. Now I could do exactly 180 degrees, and I mean you could do that obviously, but I'm going to be making it slightly tilted because that's just going to add to the realism, because obviously in real life nothing is perfectly aligned, is it? And so I think that looks pretty good. Yeah, perfect. We can probably move it a little forward, something like that. And let's see what else we have. Yeah, we had this sofa right here, and so for that we can just search. I think it was this one. Yeah, I think it was this one. Let me just add that, and now you're going to see if I import the when I imported this second sofa, what happened was that it actually came inside this white sofa, right? So I'm just going to be selecting this Sunday sofa, and I'm going to be dragging it out into its own collection. Select objects and R for rotate. Again, just slightly off. The rotation should be slightly off so that it adds more realism. Right. So yeah, one thing which I'm noticing is that these sofas are a little too big. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to be scaling them down a little bit maybe. Or one other thing which we can do is we can probably scale this whole thing up, something like that. And we can just hide this reference in the background. Just hide this empty. And I think that's looking much better. So I'm going to select this white sofa, just move it right there. And this one, right click, select objects, and like that. And the reason why I'm just basically I'm doing this right click and select objects thing is because, for example, if I select this sofa and if I just drag it around, you're going to see that it has a lot of these other parts which are not going to be selected. But for example, in this one, this is only one mesh, so you can do that. You can simply move this around. It's easier. However, obviously every object is different. Right, so this table, what I did was I used a model pack inside of Unreal Engine 5 to import this table. So we're just going to be importing that later on. You just don't need to worry about it right now. What we do need to worry about is the, what do you call it? The carpet. Not carpet, carpet. And Just wait for it to come, and you can just import any of these. Obviously, we're going to be adding a texture later on, so the texture on these don't really matter. I think that's fine. And I'm just going to be moving it right there. All right, so the problem with this is that this is actually using the hair feature inside of, yeah, it's basically using the particle settings inside of Blender. So I'm not going to use that. Instead, I can just go with something like that. Just go with something which is simple. Yeah, that should just do the job. And I'm just going to be placing it right here. Something like that should be good. You can probably scale it up in the y-axis slightly. Something like that. However, then be sure to just go into edit mode, press A to select everything, and then right click, not right click, press U and press Smart UV Project so that everything is basically, what do you call it? It's UV unwrapped properly. And when you apply the texture, it's not going to be stretched. All right, so that is looking pretty good. Now let's move on to the next thing, which is going to be, let me just add this TV right now. So with the TV, first I'm going to be importing, let me just search for TV and hopefully, yeah, I think I just used this one. This was a whole TV set which came with this this thing underneath it. I'm not exactly sure what it's called. Anyways, so yeah, just drag this out of this collection. TV set, right click, select objects. Let's just go to the top view and let me just place it right there like that. Okay. So one thing which I am noticing right now is that it's very small, so I'm just going to be scaling it up slightly. Something like that. And I'm just going to be selecting the TV itself, and then I'm going to be scaling that TV up as well. If I just, right, so I'm going to have to move it up as well because, well, the origin point wasn't the bottom. I think that should be fine. Okay, perfect. So that is that. And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to be deleting these books right now because we're going to be importing these books later on inside of Unreal Engine 5. We're going to be importing them from Megascans, which is something which I'm going to be introducing to you later on. But I mean, if you are an Unreal Engine 5 user, then you're probably aware of it already. Right, so one problem which we're noticing right now is that when we scaled this up, what happened was that these windows are all off. So yeah, so what we could do is we could simply just position them back to where they should be. But then probably the size is also different too, yeah. So that kind of sucks. But I think I'm just gonna go ahead and manually correct all of them. It's not gonna take that much time because they're probably placed pretty close to wherever they should be, and it won't take that much time. All right, so just move it right there. Bring it forward slightly. GZ, and then SZ, and finally slightly just move it a little to the right, and S and Y. Yeah, that should be good. Perfect. So moving on to this one. GZ, move it up slightly. SZ to scale it up, and SX actually to scale it in that direction. Perfect. So these are done. The only ones remaining are this one and the other one. All right, so let's do this. GZ. Okay, so one problem which I'm noticing is that this is actually intersecting the wall. So I'm just going to be making sure that it doesn't. It actually sticks out with that. But then I want to make sure that it's not there's no gaps in the middle, because otherwise light is going to come through and that's going to look really bad. GZ, something like that. SZ and SY. Alright, so we're done with that. Let me just move it forward slightly, just ever so slightly. Perfect. Alright, so now we're done with the windows. Let's continue with the furniture. So for the furniture, now let's move on to the kitchen. And for the kitchen, it's actually very simple to just import the kitchen, because we have a whole kitchen set available inside. Actually, we have multiple of them available inside of Unreal, inside of this what do you call it, Blender 3D. So in my previous render in this scene, basically what I did was I used this kitchen as actually this whole set right here. Yeah, so it looks pretty realistic. It's pretty good. However, this time I'm going to go with something a little different. So maybe how about that? Actually, that's way too large. So maybe something like this should be good. Yeah, I think that should be good. Let's just import it. Obviously, you can grab these individual assets and you can build your whole custom kitchen if you want. But I mean, that's going to be very time consuming. But I mean, by all means, if you want to do that, then you're free to. Yeah, so I'm just going to grab this kitchen set out, select objects, go to the top view and just move it right here. This I am going to make sure that it's actually 90 degrees, because obviously kitchens are fixed. I'm just going to be scaling it up slightly so that it has very little room on the sides, and I'm going to be placing it like that. Right, so our kitchen is basically in place and it looks pretty realistic and it looks pretty good. All right, so if you want to add something else to the kitchen, then you can feel free to do that. You can probably add a fridge. So something like that should be good. I'm looking for something a little smaller, because obviously this is an apartment. It's not a whole house. So that should be good. Let me just move this down. I'm just going to select that fridge and let's just place it right there. I think that should be good. But obviously the placement of all these assets and the whole interior designing part, that comes down to your own creativity. And I hope you will spend some time on this, and I hope you will do this. Yeah, just put on some good music and just put on or a good podcast, as I've mentioned multiple times in this video, and just get it done. Yeah, so these tables and these chairs are also from basically a model pack which we are going to be importing inside of Unreal Engine. So we're not going to worry about that right now. We're going to add this later on. But apart from that, yeah, this plant as well, we added it inside of Unreal Engine. But yeah, this lamp, we are going to be adding that lamp in Blender. So I'm just going to search for, by the way, just save your project because I don't want you to lose any of this progress. Search for lamp. And you can import this, but when I was actually creating the previous scene, what I did try to download this. However, it was like 250 megabytes, so I did not do that, because obviously it is better for you to use assets which are light on your computer, which have what do you call it, which are smaller in size. That just makes your whole workflow faster, and it just has less performance cost. And so yeah, that's something which I would recommend. Now this ceiling lamp is something which I'm going to be importing. Also, by the way, if you want to say, if you want to add something which is, say, let's say not available inside of BlenderKit, you can just simply go to the internet and search for whatever you want, and just write 3D model. So for example, if I want to add, let's say, a bed 3D model. Now there are some beds inside of BlenderKit as well. However, the collection is pretty limited and you might not find something which you like. So you can just go to any of these websites and you can just download anything from here. And it's going to give you an FBX format, FBX file, and which you can obviously import inside of Unreal Engine. And so I'm going to show you how to do that as well. So let's say you want to download this one, Bed01 by CG Stuffs. You can just press free download. I think it's going to ask you to log in first. And there are a few websites which are trusted. TurboSquid is one of them. So there's TurboSquid, Sketchfab, Free3D, 3D Brute. I've not heard of that website. And the one which I've heard of is CG Trader. So all these are trusted websites and you can download anything which you want from them. Just press free download. It is going to ask you to log in. However, I think I've already done that. And then you can simply go ahead and just download that. Where is it? I think it was... I think I have to go back. Yeah, right there. All right, so you can just download the FBX version of this. If you're using 3D Max as 3ds Max as your editing as your 3D software alongside Unreal Engine, then you can use the Max file as well. However, for Blender, FBX works. And so while this downloads, let me just move on to this. Oops, let me just move on to the ceiling light. And so what we're going to be doing with this is that we're simply going to be, firstly, let me just get it out, select objects, move it up like that. All right, so we can select objects and we can just rotate it. Oops, we can rotate it in the x-axis, negative 180 degrees, or you can do positive as well. It doesn't really matter that much. And so I'm just going to be placing it right here for now, because we are obviously going to be changing the position of this later on. So I'm just going to be adding one of these, and we can just duplicate them inside of Unreal Engine 5, and we can add them to all the rooms, right? So, but for now, I think it's only important to add it in the living room. Now that is downloaded, this bed. Now let's say you want to add a model inside of Unreal Engine 5. I would recommend you to first actually import it inside of Blender to actually see how the model looks and how it works, right? So I'm just going to be opening a brand new Blender project. Let me just open a new window in Blender and delete everything. Go to File, Import, and inside this import, you can just select FBX. For some objects, you're going to get a wavefront file, a .obj file. So you can do that. So you can import that as well. You can import any of these files, file formats if you want. And just go to Downloads and bed01 FBX. We have it right there. And just wait for it to import. It is going to take some time. Yeah, so it is imported, right? So you're going to see this bed looks pretty good, and you can just export it out into Unreal Engine 5, right? Well, one problem which you might face is normals. Now, what are normals? Basically, normals are the way which the normals of any 3D object are the way which is actually supposed to be outside. It's actually supposed to be viewed by the viewer. And the way to check your normals, the way to check the normals of your 3D object is by simply just pressing this button right here. And inside this geometry, just go down to face orientation, and you can see everything is blue. If everything is blue, then that is perfectly fine. If something is red, then that is not fine. So you're going to see that the insides of this are red, which is perfectly fine. However, let's say if it was like this, if I just go ahead and just ignore this part, I'm trying to show you what happens sometimes in models. For example, if it was like this, right? So everything is blue, but one part is red. So what you have to do is you simply have to select that object, press tab to go into edit mode, press A to select everything, to select all the vertices. So you can just go to mesh, make sure that everything is selected. Just go to mesh, normals, and flip. Now you're going to see everything is going to become blue, and it's going to be perfectly fine. Now you can just export this file, export as FBX once again, and then you can import it inside of Unreal Engine 5. But we're not going to be doing that right now. We're going to be exporting this whole thing, this whole room, this whole apartment as one FBX, and then we can later on import separate objects as well. All right, so let's continue on with adding furniture. So I'm just going to be adding another lamp right there at the corner. And at this point, I would highly recommend you to actually go to Pinterest and just open some references. Just go to Pinterest and just search for, let's say, simple. If I just search simple apartment, I hope I spelled that right. All right. Anyway, so you can just take inspiration from these pictures, and this one looks pretty good. And Pinterest has a lot of really good ideas, so you can just take inspiration from there, or any other website as well. You can go to ArtStation, you can go to let's say Dribbble, or what was the name of that other website? Yeah, Behance. You can just go to any of these websites, but I obviously prefer Pinterest. But I mean, it's your choice. Anyways, so moving on to the lamp. I just want a simple lamp. That seems to be good. However, yeah, let me just add that one. Right, so I'm just going to be selecting this floor lamp, just drag it out of that collection, right click, select objects, and just move it right there, and then you can rotate this. Now, one problem which I noticed with this lamp was that if you just go to Unreal Engine, you're going to see that I actually did import this exact lamp before as well, but the problem with this was that it's not UV unwrapped properly. That's why the texture is stretching, right? So we're going to be UV unwrapping this, which is going to be pretty simple. Just go to Blender, just select the object, I'm just gonna select this one because this is the object which has stretched textures. Just press tab, press A to select everything, tab to go into edit mode, press A to select everything, press U to go into the UV mapping mode, and just simply press Smart UV Project. And now it's going to fix all those issues. So just do that with this asset. And apart from that, be sure to just go into this face orientation mode and make sure that everything in your scene is actually everything which is going to be facing your audience, which is going to be facing yeah, basically your audience, should be blue. So for example, this inside part is red. However, we don't care about that because this whole part is blue, right? But one major problem which I'm noticing right now is, well, why is this red? It basically doesn't mean it doesn't make sense at all for this to be red. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to select this pillow, press tab to go to edit mode, press A to select everything, and just go to mesh and normals and flip. Now sometimes what's going to happen is that we're facing this problem right here. Basically this part is red, however it is part of a larger mesh, right? It's part of this whole mesh. So how exactly can we just select these ones, select these vertices, and then you can just flip them, because if we select everything and if we flip them, obviously this part is going to become red, and that's not something which we want. So for that, what we're going to be doing is that we're simply going to go to mesh normals, and we're going to be pressing this recalculate outside option. Now what this is going to do is that it's going to basically detect everything which is outside of this object, and it's going to make it all blue, and that is perfect. But for these feet, the problem with these feet is that they're a separate object. So I'm just going to press tab A, and we can just simply go to mesh normals, and we can just flip them. We don't need to do anything else. All right, perfect. Make sure that everything else is blue. Yeah, so this part is red. However, I don't think it matters that much because this part is blue, and that's all that matters. Okay, this is also red, but it's going to be on the top, so it doesn't matter. All right, let's move on to the next step, which is going to be to make the bathroom. And let me actually first make the bedroom first, and then I'm going to be moving on to the bathroom. All right, so for the bed, I previously used a bed from BlenderKit. However, this time I'm going to be showing you how to use this separate bed, which we downloaded from the internet. So yeah, I want to show you how to import objects from the internet as well. Previously, I did use, I think it was this one. Yeah, I mean, you can obviously use this exact one if you want. However, I would highly recommend you to use something different, which you want. And yeah, I'm just going to select all of these. I'm just going to right click the selection, select objects, press Ctrl C on your keyboard to copy this, and Ctrl V on your keyboard to basically paste it. And I'm going to be moving it right there. And that's going to be our bedroom. So something like that seems to be really good. It's a nice cozy little bed. It's a small bedroom. All right, so there's that. And let me just add a desk right here as well. I'm just going to search for desk. Sometimes it won't search, so you just have to select the text again and just press enter, and it's going to search. Right, so I did use this one before, but I want to try something else now. Maybe this one. I think that looks pretty good. That's pretty cool. Yeah, so BlenderKit has a lot of these cool options which you can experiment around. You can just play around with these. Right, so just wait for that to download. And we're not going to be adding a chair right here because, again, as I mentioned earlier, we added some chairs and tables from basically the model pack, which we're going to be downloading later on. So these chairs I added from that pack, and all that, this whole dining table and these chairs I added from that pack as well. And inside the bedroom, if I just go in, you're going to see that the table we imported from Blender. However, this chair is from that add-on, and similarly with these chairs and tables as well. We're going to be importing it from that material, not exactly add-on. It's basically a model pack which we're going to be using. Right, so I'm just going to be dragging this out. This desk, let me just drag it out, and let me just move this down so that we have more space to work. Just select the desk, go to the top view, and you can just drag it right there. And so I'm just going to be pressing R, Z, and just rotate it negative 90 degrees. Something like that seems to be perfect. And then just place it however you want. Now, when it comes to 3D design and just interior design in general, there are no rules. There's nothing right or wrong. And this time I want to add something extra as well. So I'm just going to search for bedroom in Pinterest, and let's see if we can find something interesting. So we can probably add some paintings or something like that. We could add ceiling fans. However, I'm not going to do that. Yeah, actually, we could probably add some ceiling fans. Yeah, let me actually add ceiling fans because why not? I'm going to show you how to do that as well. I'm just going to search for, let me just search for fan and it should probably come up. Yeah, there we go. We have a fan right there. But it doesn't look that great to be honest. Ceiling fan. Let's see what comes up. Yeah, that looks really nice. So I'm just going to import that and it's already in. Let me just drag it out, select objects, and I'm just going to be moving this right here. Move it up. Alright, so for some reason it is tilted, which is not something we want. So I'm just going to be tilting it in the opposite direction, something like that. Make sure that it's vertical. I hope it's fine now. Perfect. So I'm just going to be dragging it down a little bit. And obviously we're going to be placing it properly later on, but I think for now it's fine. You can probably scale it up a little bit. Something like that. But yeah, I think that should be fine for now. Alright, let's see if we can add something else. Yeah, we could probably add a bookshelf. And actually I'm going to go ahead and do that. Let me just search for bookshelf. Now we are going to be adding the books later on inside of Blender, inside of Unreal Engine. However, I'm just going to be importing an empty bookshelf. Let me just search for shelf only. Oops, I actually spelled shelf wrong, so that's why we weren't seeing any good results. Yeah, maybe something like that should be good. Actually, I'm going to go with that because I think that looks really creative. Something like that seems to be good as well. But I think we're good to go. Alright, so again, modern shelves, just drag it out, select objects, and just take it inside. Like that. And we can probably place it somewhere like there. Give me a sec. Obviously, we're going to be scaling it down quite a lot. And we can maybe even move it up. I think that should be good. Maybe scale it up a little bit. GY. Make sure that it's intersecting with this, with the wall. And yeah, now let's add a closet right here. So I'm just going to search for a closet. And honestly, BlenderKit has made this whole process really simple. Otherwise, you would have to go ahead and search for everything manually, and then you would have to download all the models separately, which would be a hassle, and it would take a lot more time. I think that seems to be nice. White closet. Previously, I used this one, but I think it's very simple. So and honestly, it doesn't really look that great either. So I think, yeah, I think I duplicated it twice. So yeah, so basically these are two closets which I duplicated like that. But this time I'm going to be using a separate one because I want to try something new, and I think the previous one did not look that great to be honest. Alright, so white old closet, just drag it right here. It is facing the opposite direction, so I'm just going to press RZ and 180 degrees to make sure that it's facing the correct direction. Alright, and now I'm just going to be, let me just scale it up slightly, something like that should be good. Right, and I can just place it right there. Maybe we can add something right there. Let me search for something to add. Let's find some ideas. Maybe we can add a plant right there. However, I don't think I'm going to do that. Maybe a chair, something like that. Or maybe even a lamp. Yeah, let me just add a lamp right there. I think that's going to look pretty cool. Lamp. And just, I think something like that, a very simple lamp like that should do the job. Just import it and get it out. Select objects. By the way, just save your project because, again, as I mentioned earlier, Unreal Engine and Blender do have the tendency to crash a lot of times, and I don't want you to lose any of your progress. So just be sure to keep saving your project. Scale it up slightly. I think that should be good. So the idea is that when you're changing something, you could probably get a better view of the clothes. Right, I think that should look pretty good. Yeah, I think I'm liking that quite a lot. All right, so apart from that, I think we are good to go with the bedroom. We are going to be adding some chairs and tables right there, um, or maybe not. Yeah, we'll see later on. Anyways, so what I'm going to do now is that now we're going to be starting to work on the bathroom. Just save your project and let's start working on the bathroom. So I'm just going to search for simply bathroom. And the good thing about BlenderKit is that BlenderKit, if you just search for, let's say, even bedroom, it just shows you things related to bedroom, or it shows you, and in this case, we're searching for bathroom. So it's just going to show us things related to the bathroom. So that's why it just simplifies the whole process. So in this render, in this scene, if I just go to the bathroom, you're going to see that I used this whole a whole set for this basically, and that whole set was this one right here. So you can use this one if you want, or you can just use a more simpler one, something like that, or maybe something like, yeah, that is like very fancy. So if you want to go super fancy, you can go that route. That seems to be good as well. I think I'm just gonna go with this one because this looks pretty realistic as well, and yeah. So I'm just gonna be selecting this bathroom furniture set, just place it right there. And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to be rotating it in the x-axis 90 degrees and in the z-axis 90 degrees again. And then I'm just going to be placing it right there. Perfect. So you could make it so that it's intersecting with the wall. However, I'm just going to leave some distance because it's going to create better shadows and it just looks better in my opinion. Right. So next up we are going to be, let me just add a trash can. Just press that and right click, select objects, and just place it right there. Or Z, just rotate it like that. And next up, let me just add a toilet seat. Actually, I don't think we need to search anything. If I just search for bathroom, and if I just keep going ahead, it should show me things related to the bathroom. So let me just add that real quick. And let me just place that first, and then we'll come back to it. All right. Heated towel rail. Let me just add that. So I'm just going to be rotating it 90 degrees in the x-axis. Move it up, something like that, and move it forward in the y-axis, and we can move it along. All right, so I think that should be good there. Let me just move it a little bit like that. All right, so next up we can probably add something. And let me just add the toilet seat. Toilet, I think that should be good. And that's fine. Let me place it right there. Rotate it, obviously, 180 degrees. I think that should be pretty good. And yeah, perfect. So now we can add this bath faucet. I hope it's called faucet. Is it facet or what? Anyways, so you can probably add something more modern like this one, or we can add something more simpler like this one. It's totally up to you. It's your choice. Or we can even add like a tub. So I think it's yeah, it's basically up to you. I'm just gonna be adding a simple what do you call it? Where to go? Yeah, this one right here. So it's just a simple faucet. Just drag it like that. And I think we have to rotate it 90 degrees in the x-axis and 90 degrees in the z-axis. Actually, 90 degrees in the z-axis is basically rotating it to the other side. So we just have to do negative 90 degrees so that it's facing us. So just move it like that and GZ like that, and it should be good. Press GX, make sure that it's intersecting. Otherwise, it's not going to look that great. And I think that should be pretty good, yeah. Let me just go to Unreal Engine and let's make sure that we're not missing anything. Right, so we are going to be adding this thing right here. And yeah, this one right here. But honestly, I don't think this cabinet right here looks that good. So we can probably add something a little more modern looking, maybe. Because I think it doesn't, I personally think it doesn't fit with the vibe that well. We can probably add a laundry basket. Or maybe even like, Let me just search for bathroom cabinet. I hope I spelled that right. Alright, so I'm looking for something a little more simple. So the one which I added previously was this one right here, but this time I'm trying to add something a little different. Maybe we can add that. Actually, you know what? Never mind. I'm just gonna skip that because I don't think any of these look that good. Like, I don't think they match with the vibe of our scene. But obviously, in your scene, it's obviously personal preference. I would recommend you to actually come up with your own designs and come up with your own unique ideas. But I personally don't think we need a cabinet in our washroom. All right, so how about... All right, so let me just add a toilet paper holder right here. Now, obviously, these small details are optional. Obviously, if you're just making a project for yourself, if it's just for practice, no one's going to notice these tiny details. However, if you do end up, if you do pay attention to details, it's going to be really rewarding for you, especially in professional projects. So I would definitely recommend you to actually give attention to this detail. 180 degrees, 180 degrees. Move it up, GZ, something like that. And let me just place it. Perfect. So I think that looks pretty good. Okay. Apart from that, I think our bathroom is pretty done. It's pretty good. Yeah, we can probably add a mat. But I don't think that's really necessary. Yeah, we can probably add a drain to this. Yeah, let me just add a drain because otherwise, where's all the water gonna go? Anyway, so let me just add a drain. Now, when you're making stuff like this, I would highly recommend you to not rush through it. Right now, what I'm just doing is I'm basically just doing this for the sake of this tutorial to actually show you guys how to do this. But obviously, if you're doing it for yourself, for example, for a professional project or even a hobby project, I would highly recommend you to actually spend some time on this. You can just search for bathroom and you're going to see all these very aesthetic bathrooms and you can just add whatever you want to them. But for now, in this tutorial, I'm just going to be keeping things simple. Move it down. We can obviously adjust the position of this later on in Unreal Engine, but I think for now we should be good to go. Perfect. Okay, so I think if I just save it, just go ahead and save it, by the way. I think our whole apartment is almost done. The modeling part, well, not exactly the modeling part. The assembly part is almost done. The rest of the objects, we're going to be adding them inside of Unreal Engine. So yeah, I think we're basically good to go in Blender. So I'm just going to close this one right here. Oops, if I just go back to Blender. Yeah, so you're going to see our whole apartment is ready. And now let's move on to the next step, which is going to be to actually import this in Unreal Engine 5. And in Unreal Engine 5, we're going to be lighting this and we're going to be adding the textures. And obviously then we're going to be creating the animation and finally rendering it.